Welcome back. This is the Scaling Secrets podcast. Roheel Amad is here, and he is from ForsythBarnes.com. Now, Forsyth Barnes is a talent company, and they are a talent partner, and they are an FT1000 fast growth company 3 years running. They specialize in senior appointments within e-tail, fintech, and sports and entertainment industries. So we are going to be hearing all about Roheel and his secrets to success, his origin story, how he scaled, and how he just makes the magic happen. So Roheel, glad to be speaking with you.
And look, thanks for having me on as well. Glad to be speaking to you too.
Wonderful. And so Forsyth Barnes, hearing about it, I have no idea what it is as a average layperson. So can you tell us what they do and what service they provide?
Look, if you, as you said, to a layperson, essentially we work with growing, scaling, amazing brands in the what we call the e-tail world. So traditionally, those kind of retail type businesses, but we don't really do the traditional element of retail. It's a lot more the online, the digital, the brand, the technological areas of those businesses. We work across sports and entertainment as well. So anything from the organizations, the leagues, the governing bodies, and so on as well, the PE houses that back them, and across the fintech sector as well, which is a rapidly developing sector. And essentially, we work in what you traditionally call the mid to senior appointments end of the landscape. Working with those businesses and finding their next senior leaders, next director level, management level, senior management level across their businesses within specific disciplines as well. And we're going good so far.
Wonderful. And I saw from your website you work with companies like Macy's and Kohl's and just huge brands like that, and I was very impressed. And so you hear about this a lot about how if your business is stuck or slow or just needs to get to that next level, it's not necessarily about the planning or the strategy, but the people that are in charge of that. So can you tell us about that? Just how important people are and why it's so important just to find that right fit?
And look, I think the people aspect is fundamental to any business. If you're a growing, scaling business, you can't achieve that with having the right type of individuals on board in that organization, right? When you're building the culture, when you're building the standards, the ethics of that particular organization. As a founder myself, I know that I need the right people around me to be able to trust them, to be able to work with them. This business isn't all about us. And so loads of people will be going through that similar sort of journey as well. If you're looking at the more corporate landscape, you're right, we work with Macy's, Kohl's, Nike, for instance, as well. Those guys are always looking for the best talent within their respective fields. So whether that's in data or engineering or technology or senior leadership that we're supporting them on, businesses don't progress with having the right people. And if you listen to anyone, your Reid Hoffmans of the world and so on as well, one of the number one things that they talk about is people, is talent. It's their biggest job. You always want to be looking for the next talent in your business, irrespective of where you are in your journey as well. So it's fundamental. I'd argue that there is nothing more important than people. You can have money, but if you're not deploying it in the right way and you haven't got the people to actually do anything with that, then what's the point of the money? So I'd probably say it's the most fundamental thing of any business.
I love it. That's huge and that's deep. And so, what led to you and your business partner to create this company? I read a little bit about you, how you guys just decided to start this. And so, what was sort of the origin story, the jumping off point? Because you say that people are really important, but it's also easy to have an idea and say, oh, well, these sorts of companies already exist. Someone's already done this. So, why did you create this and how did you overcome that hesitation of saying like, oh, I don't know if I can stand out or I don't know if my company can make a difference?
Look, without trying to sound arrogant, I don't think either of us had that hesitation, if I'm being really honest. Um, Both of us back ourselves individually and the other to do most things or figure our way through most things. So, look, to date, we're in our eighth year now, coming towards the end of our eighth year. I don't think I've ever had that hesitation whether we're capable or not, or whether we will make ourselves stand out. The thought process has been more around how are we going to do that and what are we going to do to engender that and to make sure we're building reputation, to make sure it's consistent, to make sure it's authentic to what we believe in and what we wanted to achieve when we set out on this at the very beginning. That's probably been where most of the thought has gone into. As to why, frustration, if I'm being really honest with you, with our industry, as amazing as it is, as busy as it is globally, Not much has changed in our industry over the last 3 to 4 decades, really. I go back to simple things in the way that 99.9% of businesses advertise their vacancies, their jobs. How are we doing it at the moment? Typically, there's a job advert that's written and it's posted on online, right? LinkedIn, or job boards, websites, that kind of thing. Companies' own websites. I would challenge anyone to tell me what has materially changed in the content that is going up on those websites to what it was 20, 30 years ago to when those same job ads were being published in the newspapers. Has anything changed? You watch the old episodes of Friends and they're circling job ads and everything back then. Not much has changed. And why is that? When we're working in these amazing industries that have developed so much, even post-COVID, these days, the way that we bank, the way that we shop, don't even have to go in store anymore. I can go out and buy a whole wardrobe from the touch of my phone. And yet, when we talk about the talent industry, too much has changed. Too much has stayed the same for too long. So that those frustrations, that stagnancy which is prevalent through our industry, is one of the biggest reasons that Scott and I mean, we've worked together since 2010, but it's one of the biggest reasons that has really motivated us from the beginning and continues to motivate us in our quest to drive change and innovation into the talent industry globally.
Wonderful. And I think that's an interesting thought exercise. Where is the frustration and where is the stagnancy? Whether you're looking to pursue some new area of business, some new idea, or just like looking about how you can innovate better, just what has stayed the same over the last 2 decades, and just where are people just stuck and how does that need to change and speed up and just be more convenient. And so I know that you have all this kind of cutting edge new like ideas and processes. You tap
Yep.
into AI to do some of this. And so how
Yep.
are you different? How are you separate from the Friends era circling the classified ads sort of procedure?
So even if you look at some of the marketing campaigns that we've run for our clients, we're using a lot more digital content, a lot more video content, a lot more short form content, a lot of social media. And that's not to add, the traditional mindset has always been, right, I've got this requirement on from this client and I'm going to advertise it out there. That's not our first go-to. That's a byproduct of what we do. But the first thing that I want to do when I'm working with a client is ensure that we're actually getting the message of the culture of that business out there, the ambition of that business out there. We're making sure that we're promoting and marketing that whole entire organization to make them to ensure that they're coming across as an employer of choice in an industry that may be saturated when they're up against the big guys. If you've got a sporting apparel brand, how do you set yourself out from a Nike, from an Adidas, from a Puma, from an Under Armour? The way the guys at Gymshark did it was amazing. But not everyone has got that same type of trajectory. And there's plenty of other apparel type businesses out there in the sports world who struggle with that. And that's the external branding from a product perspective. I'm talking about the employer branding. How are Gymshark, how are these other organizations standing out? Because you haven't got the budget to compete with a Nike. But what we can do is use much more digital, much more innovative type methods to ensure that they're sticking out. So when people are looking at a basic job out of a Nike versus some of the content that we're producing for our clients, straight away there's much more excitement. Straight away it's much more modern in the way that's being presented as well. So that's one example as well. But we look at a whole process overall to say, what does that look like over the last 2, 3 decades? And probably my biggest frustration is, unfortunately, our sector looks very inwards. How are we going to benefit? How am I as a talent partner going to benefit? What's going to increase my efficiency? What's going to increase my ROI on my time in this? We're not looking at things like that. Our first and foremost picture is how is a we've got two sets of customers in ours, which is very rare in most sectors. How are both sets of our customers going to benefit from us driving this change in innovation? That's first, and then we look at the benefit to us afterwards. I think that's probably one of the big differences from a mindset perspective as we're developing some of our technological platforms, our SaaS platform, the AI in tune with that as well.
I love that. To think more outwards and think about how others will benefit first, and then what the way that you benefit is more secondary. And you know what you're bringing to mind. Well, you're bringing a few things to mind, and like this is the Scaling Secrets podcast, and I'm always thinking about what are the common threads. Like, what are all of these successful companies such as yourself doing right? And they all kind of have this focus on the content, on the social media, on the not just existing and not just having the systems and putting out the fires, but also just like talking about what it is that they do and having this ambition and making it known. And you think about like these huge companies they mentioned, right? Like Nike or Adidas or Under Armour, and the weight those carry, that didn't happen by accident, right? When you hear about the amazing things that they accomplish and they want to accomplish and their hopes and dreams, no one like looked for that. They said that, and then we all kind of heard about it, and then they repeated it. And so you're saying that it's basically impossible to compete with a Nike on a customer advertising level, but we can sort of compete in a way as far as finding the right people to work there, right? Finding the right employees and making it known about how it's a fun place to work, but they're also going to be accomplishing some big, huge things. And so this is like really great to think about and talk about. And do you have like a fun story, a case study, success story to talk about as far as one of these clients that you've helped? Because you've given us a little bit of like concepts and examples, but what about just like a real start to finish problem that you solved to really work your magic?
Look, it's not even just one organization, to be honest with you. A particular example is the offer process. When we try to think about the psychology of things, right? And so I think about the offer process. Most organizations and most people, when they come to offering somebody, they come back and they say, right, cool. Here's the money. Here's what we're going to offer you. Here's the role title. Here's the benefits. Are you accepting, yes or no? That's very transactional. So what we're doing with a number of our clients out there as well, across the fashion industry, across the technology industries, we actually, on behalf of our client, we actually go out and we build this whole offer presentation, which is completely tailored to that individual. So it looks at the psychology as to why that individual is even interested in that particular organization. It looks at why they're interested in that particular role and the opportunity. It looks at their career development opportunities within that organization and their personal development too. So we take all that into account. We also then take into account what impact are they looking and likely to have within Nike, for instance, right? Within that particular opportunity, within that department. Are they going to develop? What's their career aspirations and progression within that organization? And we package all of that in to this big presentation, and where we can do it in person, we'll do it in person. And if we can't, it's a global type thing, and we'll do it on a video. And we take someone through that whole journey. We haven't talked about anything about offer yet, but what we've done is we've taken through the whole journey of what they're going to bring to the table to the business that they're working with and that they're interviewing at, what that business is going to bring to the table and how they're going to develop them. Because even if they're there from anything from 3 to 5 years, everyone wants to know how they're being progressed. It's not all about money anymore. It used to be, not anymore. Everyone wants to know that they feel part of something and that they're going to be developed and they're going to be progressed, that they're going to be motivated within their role, that they're going to be engaged, that the individual that they're going to work for, that they can get on with as well. So we build all of that into the journey first, before we've even then talked about what the actual offer is. The offer itself, the financials, the package, is it important? Of course it is. Is it the be all and end all? No, it's not. So we're now rolling this out with a lot of the clients that we work with on our retained products type cycle. And we've done this across a number of businesses that we're working with as well. And that whole presentation, by the way, it's compiled by us, taken through various bits of feedback and everything that we've taken throughout what that process looks like. But it looks like it's come from that particular client. And we do that on behalf of our clients. It's all baked into what we do as part of our service. But it looks like it's come from Nike. It's looked like it's come from Under Armour. It's produced in conjunction with FB. So when that person's on that, the North Star, if you like, in that whole scenario is that they, before they've even got to the financial package of anything, they're sat there and they're thinking, I've never experienced an offer process that looks anything quite like this. This is completely unique in anything that I've experienced, whether I've got 2 years or whether I've got 20 years experience. And straight away, they're in a very different kind of psychological frame of mind as to where they're at with that particular opportunity as well. But it also represents our clients in the best possible framework. So when I talk about those businesses that are competing with a Nike and so on, Nike can't roll it out, and they're not rolling it out globally across the complete level of the enterprise. But where we're working with a growing, scaling apparel business within the sports world, within that sports fashion world, we can roll it out across that organization. So everyone's got a consistent process of what they're looking at. Everyone's got a consistent offer process when they're at that stage. That starts to set them apart in the industry. That starts to give a level of personalization that no one else is giving out there as well. That then sets them apart from even when they're onboarding and so on as well. Someone's coming in with a much greater impression of that particular organization. So they're likely to have a better start in their time at that organization as well, rather than someone asking a lot of questions. Are these the guys for me? I'm not entirely sure. I've taken it, but I'll see, and that kind of thing as well. So it has such a wide-ranging impact. But that's just one example. At the end of the process, we employ that same psychological methodology throughout, from an attraction perspective, from a storytelling perspective, right through to when we're offering someone on behalf of our clients as well, and the onboarding of it as well, and the first few weeks of their time in the business, the first 6 months of their time in the business. We try to take that psychological approach to everything that we do.
Well, this is amazing just to think about and to hear about from you about adding these storytelling elements and these persuasion elements to what you do. And there's a lot of like sort of fundamental reminders, right? That it's really easy to just say, here's the offer, here's the job position, and here's the salary, and here you go. Do you want it or not? And that's what everyone else does. And you're saying instead of that, you kind of look deep and you look at, well, if this potential hire, if it's no longer about the money for them, it's about their future and their sense of accomplishment, what it is that they want, and how can we make this customized presentation to wake them up and to stand out, because maybe they're weighing these other job prospects and we want to be someone that just completely blows them away. And everyone else says, here's the offer, do you want it or not? But we're saying, here's all these things about us. And there's also something you mentioned there about focusing on the dream first, sort of. And I think that's a really helpful reminder, right? In any kind of sort of conversion type of conversation is, sure, there's like the offer of some kind at the end, but then leading up to that, you kind of get into the story and the problem and the possibilities, and you focus on these pillars before it's time for that offer. And that way, they're kind of like micro committed, or they're pre-sold on some of these other things first before they fall in love with what there is at the very end of it. And so I can tell that you're passionate about this and you've thought a lot about this. And as far as you personally and like your personality and your mindset and your work ethic, do you think that are there some qualities about you that stand out from others? Are there things that are really just amazing about your thought process into this business that other people don't have?
I think, look, the best way that can kind of encapsulate that for me is I went on a golf course for the first time in 2020, just after lockdown had kind of ended, or golf courses had started to open back up again. Never been on a golf course before, and I actually went with Scott, my business partner, and I think he was having lessons at the time. And I played in the UK. I played cricket growing up, so hand-eye coordination is generally okay. But I'd gone on to that golf course with a full expectation to beat him. And it wasn't I might get somewhere. It was look, he's not doing anything that fundamentally I'm not physically capable of doing. You're not asking me to run a sub 10-second 100-meter sprint. I know that's not going to happen. But it's ball striking. Yes, he's further ahead in that he's had lessons, but it's not anything physically that I shouldn't be able to do, or I'm not capable of doing. So I went on to that, genuinely expecting to beat him. Bear in mind, I've never been on a golf course. I've been on a driving range maybe once 10, 15 years ago, something like that. And I lost badly. And I got nowhere near him. And I was awful. And I was missing the ball and misstriking and slicing it and skewing it everywhere. But it's more about the approach. When I went on to that, I have that genuine belief of I'm capable of almost anything. So if I feel like I'm physically in my capabilities, yes, I might have some learning to do. Yes, I'll make plenty of mistakes, and I'm okay with that as well. I don't really see too much. I don't really believe in failure either, if I'm being really honest, as a concept. But it's that self-belief, not arrogance, but self-belief in I'll be able to do this and I'll be able to do this well. And if I can't, I'll learn it. I'll pick it up. But I kind of thrive off those people that will say you won't do this, or you can't do this, or you'll fail at this. And it's almost like, cool, you've now put me in a gladiatorial type fight. Now I'm going to show you what that's all about. And Scott's seen that, my business partner's seen that. The way we've achieved things and the way we've maybe have poked the bear with some of our competitors, they've seen that as well. But it all stems from that self-belief of nothing's beyond our capability. Might be beyond our experience level right now, not capability. And so I'm happy to give most things a go from the outset with little fear of failure. Um, because I don't see it as failure. I see it as a development curve. I see it as a learning opportunity. I see it as a chance to make mistakes. And if I'm not making the same mistakes again, then there is no such thing as failure. It's all development. But they often do say, I think the some of the core traits between an entrepreneur and a psychopath, sorry, a serial killer, are the same. They have those psychopathic tendencies. And essentially, that boils down to something along the lines of they never think they're going to fail. I think that's true. No genuine entrepreneur ever goes into anything thinking or expecting that they're going to fail. No serial killer goes into it expecting to fail. I think there are some of those psychopathic tendencies which hopefully don't develop in that direction.
But we can pick and choose those qualities and kind of use them for good instead of evil. And I saw some kind of interview recently where they were speaking with, I think, the founder of NVIDIA, and he was saying something like, if he knew the future, he would not have built a company, because what a part of what helped him succeed was basically being ignorant of the difficulty that lied ahead of him, because that was not useful. And so that's really something that I think about quite a bit as far as that whole entrepreneurship thing. We wish we kind of knew more about the future and what was coming, but maybe that's not such a good thing, because we would just get so discouraged with all the the failures and the roadblocks, the obstacles, the work that was ahead of us, that maybe we wouldn't even try. And so that's a really good quality to have, is just instead of giving up or being discouraged, give it a try and don't believe in failure. I love that. And you're tapping into just when I'm looking at, well, what are the qualities of someone that I want to be around or I want to be in business with? If there's that person that just gives up super easily, that's like a huge turnoff for me. I prefer when we dive in and we try to figure it out anyway, and at least make an attempt or several attempts or learn from those mistakes, because as you said, that way it's not failure. They say, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And so since we're in the last few minutes of our conversation here, I want to make sure that we get to at least maybe one or two quick scaling tips, or like, in this company you deal with a lot of people, there's a lot of moving parts with these kind of customized presentations and a lot of research. Do you have any just insights to share with us about scaling a business to 7 and 8 figures and beyond that maybe is not discussed enough, or just people don't touch on enough as far as scaling a business and what you've learned?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people tend to focus on the numbers, the profit, so on, so from such an early phase, right? And they're chasing that money all the time. They're chasing those profits. Yes, you always have to keep your eye on that, but I think it depends. If you truly want to scale something, you have to have the right structures in place to be able to do that. And my advice to anyone is to ensure that from day one, you're clear on what those structures are, you're clear on what those processes are. You build those with a view to take you forward, not just where you are here and now. That doesn't mean if you're a 10-person business, you set the process in place for a 5,000-person business. But you should put some process in place that will probably take you to 50 heads, or a certain level of turnover, or a certain level of gross profit. And then you double down on those, and you ensure that those sets of processes, those structures that you create, are ingrained from the first person that you bring in to the next person, and you don't lose sight of that. And too many people that I see set a few processes. Some aren't that sure of what they truly are themselves, and if you're not sure yourself, how can you teach anyone else? How can you expect someone else to instill those consistently? But then they drop those chasing money, and they forego those chasing money. And then that's where you start to build a house on very shaky grounds. So my advice is look ahead, make sure that those process structures are in place, but then continuously review those, because those processes that you might have had in place up to, say, a business of, say, 50 people in there probably won't serve you right when you're trying to push towards a business that will serve 100 people. And they won't probably serve you right to take you to 250 people. So you've always got to be looking ahead as well, is one thing. My other advice is to people at scaling is stick to a core set of principles, but understand that the first origination of the business and the idea of what the business will be and how kind of where it will operate and what the product sets are might not be truly what you go down towards. So you need to have a plan, but you also need to have a bit of pragmatism that plan you might pivot within that plan as well. So the core set of principles or foundations, when I look at what FB is now, we're still operating on those core set of foundations and principles. We knew we wanted to be a global business. We knew we wanted to scale this with our people. We knew that we wanted to give a big chunk of our business away. And we're now committed to giving a third of our business away to our people. There are certain principles that we always wanted to stick by. But the business as it is now is very different to what it is from when we started. We're now building tech platforms in the background. We're now diversifying ourselves into other areas. We're now on the acquisition trail, which isn't necessarily what it was always going to be from day one. So the principles underlying have always stayed consistent and prevalent, but there have been certain pivots. There have been we've gone in certain directions which we didn't necessarily think that we were going to do from day one. I think that's really important as well, to have those key principles underlying and underpinning everything.
Wonderful. Well, this is really deep, and it's helpful to just tap into your energy and your mindset here as far as thinking about these principles and then over time iterating and making sure that those are up to date. And I love what you're saying here about don't just look at the numbers and the money, but look at those processes and structures and look at your company size and number of employees and be a little bit forward thinking and look at what will it take to go from 20 to 50 people and beyond. Just what's the next couple of steps as far as that company size and as far as the people that are going to help you get there, because we said near the beginning about, you said that people are more important than anything because they'll figure out all those little problems along the way. So I want to make sure that we touch on FB, on Forsyth Barnes and what they're all about, and because we want to raise some awareness about your company so that if just the right fit, just the right person is watching or listening to this podcast, then they know to check you out and take the next step. So what is Forsyth Barnes, and where should we go, and how does someone know if they're the right person to go there and check you out?
So look, Forsyth Barnes, major talent partner, globally growing business. We're in our 8th year now. We're pushing 80 heads globally. We're not far off closing on about 100 mil rev to date so far as well. So we've been going great guns. We're a completely bootstrapped organization. So everything that we've achieved, all of our growth that we've achieved is off the back of the amazing work that we do for and with our clients. We wouldn't be able to do it if we weren't offering something that's different to a high level of service as well, essentially as well. So that I always say that to a lot of our clients and people that I meet, because that gives them confidence in terms of what we're doing in the industry. What kind of persona might you be if you wanted to work with us? Look, we work with all different manner of organizations, but I'd say where we do probably some of our real best work, if you're growing or scaling your organization or a particular department, you might be taking a data department from A to Z. You want to do it in a different way. You want to put your organization out there as an employer of choice. You want to put yourselves out there as one of the thought leading, industry leading type organizations of departments as well. Come and speak to us, because we're creating targeted campaigns and marketing campaigns for businesses that really put you out there in a completely different light, that really get people energized and bought in before they've even had a conversation with anyone in the organization too. So if you're looking to do things in a much more digital, much more innovative, modern way than just a traditional, if you're frustrated with what the traditional methods have been, what the big guys have been doing, and I'm sorry to say, but in a very, I think the word, not arrogant way, but in a very kind of lackadaisical way, because that's the way it's been done for the last 2 or 3 decades now, come and speak to us, because we'd love to demonstrate on what we've done and our ideas and how we can put you out there as that employer of choice. They're the ideal businesses that we work with.
And this logic makes ideal sense, that there are these companies that have been around for decades and they're huge and they're successful, and they probably don't want to change what they've been doing because that will disrupt the gravy train that they're currently on. But that leaves it open for some of these smaller companies to innovate and do a lot better and to become that employer of choice. So I'm going to make sure to spell out the website, because we'll have a link, but it always helps if someone's listening to have just the exact web address. That is forsythbarnes.com, forsythbarnes.com. And as we wrap up our conversation here, Roheel, it's really lame to just say goodbye or the end. And I think it's really cool and awesome to end with a bang and to end with a quote, moral, or lesson. And it can be basically anything, like if it's your favorite one or something that comes to mind. But what do you have to say to me if I ask you for literally any quote, moral, or lesson that just really has helped you?
Probably the thing that runs through my head every day, not just for myself, but for my people as well. And that's how you do anything is how you do everything. And it's as simple as that for me as well. It's all about standards, expectations, but the lowest level thing that you have to do, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Beautiful. Well, Roheel from ForsythBarnes.com. If you want to be that innovator, that employer of choice, go there right now. And thank you, Roheel, for stopping by and for sharing these scaling secrets.
Appreciate your time.
All right.